What's going on, everyone? I know it's early, but I just could not wait. I've been trying to find as much content as I could from the new set to dive into what people are trying out, what people are looking at. Yes, you've seen all the YouTubers and the videos, and that definitely is giving you a little bit of an inkling. But I wanted to see what people are actually bringing to their local tournaments and such. Now, we don't have a lot of data at all. There's really only been a couple of tournaments that I've been able to see. Couple of them that have been posted on the Star Wars Unlimited competitive hub, including the Two Moons Invitational. By the way, it was casted by Thork, so shout out to that guy. It was kind of fun listening to everyone's thoughts and kind of what they think about the new set and some new cards that we got to see. But I just want to do a brief overview of some decks that people are really experimenting with, some cards that I was seeing most commonly, and some of that's going to be related to this, mainly because you can go and check out day 1 and day 2 on, the actual championship here, or the Two Moons Invitational here that was actually taking place. But first things first, a big thank you to my patrons over on Patreon, guys. Appreciate you supporting the channel. Let's talk about some new cards, okay? So first things first, as you can see straight up from behind me, we have a couple of decks that were actually placed. More particularly, we have Chancellor Palpatine from Secrets of Power. This actually is a very interesting list. We mentioned, Palpatine quite a few times in that he looks like he's just going to be kind of that standard controlling vigilance, villainy, command archetype. And that's pretty much what we're seeing. You have a couple of new plot cards that people get to play. The card I've been most impressed with, or the two cards I've been most impressed with for the plot mechanic, Cad Bane and First Light, both of which have been pretty relevant in the deck. This guy's also playing Dogmatic Shock Squad, Sly Moore, and Chancellor Palpatine. When I played my list, I basically played this exact list. Like, it is almost exactly the same across the board. Pretty much, I mean, when you're putting like Vigilance, Villainy, Command together, there isn't really like a crazy amount of options, but there are some spice to this disc. Like, we have Galen Urso in the sideboard, which is very interesting. Also playing Condemn, which I think is a very, very solid removal option. One of the things that when I first read this card, I did not actually see kind of the end quotations. This just makes any card lose their abilities. And then when you attack, you get the -6/-0. Obviously, when I put this card in my top 10 cards list, I talked about that as well, but just something to kind of keep note of if you read the card a long time ago and you wrote it off. I think one of the biggest spicy things about this is the emergency powers that he's running. And this is a card that really has surprised a lot of people. I mean, when you're in the late game and you've got 9-10 resources and you drop a +9, +9, +10, +10 or whatever, plus in the late game, that can one-shot people and absolutely take people by surprise, especially if you're in a spot where you're trying to close out the game, but you just don't have that power. They're dealing with all your big units, but they don't really want to be dealing with like a Rival's Fall on your spy token because Chancellor Palpatine came down. That's where emergency powers comes in. Remind you can't actually use this on your leader, which would have been absolutely incredible, but a very, very interesting list with Chancellor Palpatine. Now, on top of that, like I said, I've been watching a few tournaments, including the Two Moons Championship here, what people are playing. If you look at the tournament results right now, we really only have the one that is actually filed here for the Star Wars Limited competitive hub, but we're still seeing some Legends of the Force planetary qualifiers take place, so we're not going to really see some amazing results until next week. But I want to dive in here and talk about a few cards that I had been seeing. The first one is Aggressive Negotiations. For those of you that have not seen this card, it has actually been just incredible. Depending on the list, I saw this in a little bit of Han Red 4 and some other decks. This just coming out and dealing +4, +0, +5, +0, not uncommon. Even if you're getting +3, +0, it's just like a little bit of a worse surprise strike. And for decks that, can't run surprise strikes, it's a great addition. Even for the decks that do run surprise strike, it's a nice way to potentially get even more value out of that attack. And again, there are decks that really can build around this. We've seen a lot of Aggressive Negotiations, which I think has been absolutely fun. Also in Han 4, I happen to see A-Wing, which is just a nice little additional 1 resource space unit. There is a good chance that decks like Vader will want to be playing this as well. Just another turn 1 resource, essentially 2 power, 2 toughness unit. Nothing too crazy about it, but it does a little bit of work. Again, we don't need to sit and talk about A-Wing all that much, but another card that's been played quite a bit. And then Sudden Ferocity has been another addition in Han, but also some other lists out there. This has been one of the more impressive plot cards. It's a really nice way to be super, super aggressive. I tried it out in like Kazuda as well, where you can go like turn 3 when you've got Kazuda deploy. You deploy Kazuda, you get Sudden Ferocity, and then you can still go with Trench Run or something. So you can really utilize all your resources and get in a ton of damage. With Trench Run and Sudden Ferocity, that's 7 additional damage on that turn. Then you have Kazuda deploy, which is an extra 3 power. On like a Millennium Falcon, I mean, that could be disgusting. Not that you can Trench Run on a Millennium Falcon. You have to use another unit for that, but you could still do that as well. So really, really powerful stuff from this type of card. We are also seeing a little bit of Cassian as a leader. This one was very, very interesting. Actually, I was watching this in the Two Moons, and someone was playing an out of aspect Rebel Assault in their Cassian Yellow decks. They're actually playing Cassian Yellow. I did get to see, the Karas Nemeks of the world. I did get to see the Fighters for Freedom. But one of the key plays was, Cinta Kaz getting an attack in with Cassian. And a lot of people forget, but Cassian actually has Overwhelm. So, we saw the finishing play in one of the games where they Rebel Assaulted in Cassian and Cinta and overwhelmed through their Sentinel for a bunch of damage, which was pretty key to close out the game, which was awesome to see. So Cassian, a leader that I'm expecting to see a little bit more of. Very interesting. So far has done pretty good work. Another card that joined the list of cards that were pretty impressive is Captain Typho. This is pretty solid in terms of, well, a 4-resource 4/5 Sentinel is already playable. But what ended up happening is a lot of Heroism, Vigilance, Command style decks just used this, got in a couple of blocks, and healed 2. That's pretty much what it did. Healed 1, healed 2, and that's good enough. That's good enough. Just that heal 1, heal 2 is obnoxious enough alongside the Sentinel to be playable. In fact, I even saw Captain Typho in place of something like Chirrut in the Force decks. There were 2 different lists. We had Yoda Green Force, and there was another Green Force list that were running Captain Typho, and both of which were running Captain Typho over Chirrut, or maybe alongside Chirrut. I'm not 100% sure, but Captain Typho ended up being a little bit more impactful in a lot of spots, simply for the fact that, well, Chirrut doesn't actually kill off units oftentimes. It can be disruptive and can be harder to kill than Captain Typho, but Captain Typho actually finished off some units. And even if he didn't, he was still getting that extra value of healing. So if it took 2 attacks to kill Chirrut, it also takes 2 attacks to kill Captain Typho oftentimes. And in those 2 attacks, yes, Chirrut deals less damage and doesn't heal you. Captain Typho deals more damage and heals you. Pretty straightforward as to why this card ended up being pretty strong. And I mentioned this earlier, but Cinta Kaz to finish out the game for the Cassian. This is the card we're considering. Very, very powerful kind of ability to cheat actions. We've seen this many times in the game, but anytime you can cheat actions, it's always going to be pretty powerful, and that is what Cinta has been doing. If we pull back to the rest of the set and look at some of the cards, really we didn't see anything too crazy. I did see, as we talked about with Palpatine Green, the Cad Bane across multiple different decks, Condemn as well. We didn't really get to see anything big. I saw some bigger Heroism Vigilance decks trying out Bo-Katan. Didn't really get to see anything too crazy with them. I also saw them trying out Captain Rex, but I didn't get to see any games that Captain Rex actually came in and took control over the game. Some other random 1-ofs, 2-ofs, etc. We did get to see some Imperial Dark Troopers, some Hyperspace Disasters. Again, nothing too crazy that actually impacted the game. Mina Bonteri was a regular. Yoda Green was one that really utilized the Mina Bonteri. I mean, just drawing a card when it's defeated and being a restore 1-er on turn 1 is good. It is just solid. I didn't get to see any Queen Amidala, which, well, we just didn't really see that deck archetype all that much yet. But outside of that, there really weren't any other cards that were really catching my eye that are being played all over the place. Karas Nemek, I didn't get to see him, but I imagine he's in those lists. Pretty sure, at least. We didn't get to see really anything too crazy out of rare cunning styles besides the A-Wing. I'd expect if we saw some Vader yellows, which I did not, that we would see things like Garindin, or maybe if we saw some, random cunning heroism more so playing Bale. I'm not sure if the Cassian yellow was. I didn't see it, but I imagine it's a card that could be showing up. Really, there hasn't been too much of like a crazy amount of impact. It's kind of what I mentioned, is that set 6 really doesn't have like these absolute bombs of cards. Like there are some good ones, you know, Sintakaz, Captain Typho, Aggressive Negotiations. These are some good cards, right? And they do fit the style very, very well. But it's not like Legends of the Force, where you're going to see this overwhelmingly amount of Force-based cards show up in the meta. Or even like set 2, where you're seeing like Podamer and Crate Dragons and all those stuff that are kind of manipulating entire game plans. It's not really like that. There are a couple leaders that are solid, a couple of cards that fit the game plan, plot's a strong mechanic. That's kind of where set 6 is at. I'm very excited to see the next weekend, as that's when we're starting to see a lot more tournaments, and we'll be able to see if the meta shapes up any differently. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all for the next one.